I'm very sorry that we couldn't be there in person to celebrate the life of my grandfather, Harold Owens, today. Unfortunately, our daughter became ill an hour into the trip up to Michigan, and we decided it was in everyone's best interest to turn around. With COVID-19 concerns, we thought it would be foolish to jeopardize any well-being of those able to attend today to celebrate a life that has already ended. Now, no matter how great we thought it was. Harold Dwayne Owens, my grandfather, passed away December 20th at the age of 79. He was born on May 18th, 1941 to Harold Sr. and Marie Owens. He was born on a farm, which sounds a little strange today, but was common for the time period. He grew up in Coleman, Michigan, and like many men his age, enlisted in the military after high school. He most memorably spoke about his foreign enlistment years, about being stationed in Italy, where he gained a taste and fondness for the sun, the food, and a very broken understanding of the language. Thankfully, traveling the world did not fill any major voids for Harold. He came home and fell in love with his bride, our grandmother, Anna Brokaw. They were married August 1st, 1964 in Midland, Michigan. Harold and Anna spent a long and fulfilling 56 years together, having two children, Michelle, now DeRocco, as well as Michael, who is still in Owens. They raised their family of four in Beaverton, Michigan, in a house that my grandfather built. A house that was memorable for being the setting of many holidays like Easter and Christmas Eve, where Harold would man the grill on the infamous Christmas Eve steak dinner for the Owenses, and every year telling each one of the grandkids that he had a special steak just for them that was done perfectly to their preference on doneness, and whether it was medium rare or well done, he knew exactly whose was whose on that grill. He never forgot, and it was incredible. My grandfather had two careers. He worked tirelessly with both of them and took incredible pride in what he did. He spent 31 years at Dow Chemical, often working any additional shifts or jobs that he could to get an advantage in his skill set as well as his career. Harold valued education and told all of his family the importance of it. He attended college for mathematics to get an edge for promotions at Dow, and after multiple times of being told he didn't have the proper tenure or that there were more qualified applicants, he applied and took the mathematics aptitude test and surpassed many of the other applicants with substantially more time on the job. My mother, Michelle, reminisced that he was always the one to sit with her and help with her mathematics and algebra homework. He was adamant that she needed to continue her education, and she credits him for doing just that and appreciated the drive and push that he gave her and how he supported her throughout the process, as well as attending all three of her graduations. When I think about who my grandfather was at the core of his being, the response is simple. He was love. He loved his family. It was rare that he and my grandmother were unable to attend any school, athletic, or band event for myself. And the times that they weren't, it was usually because they were doing so for another grandchild. His tickle sessions were infamous amongst our grandchildren. He'd pin you down and tickle your ribs and neck until you threatened to pee, which was my defense mechanism. Those surprise attacks lasted well into my 30s, as well as my defense mechanism in response, and nobody was safe, not even Grandma. His love was evident, especially with our grandmother, Ann. The way they would tease and dote on one another was inspiring. While I can likely remember less than probably half a dozen times ever hearing my grandpa audibly say, "I love you," to anyone, everyone knew how abundant his love for us was. Grandpa also loved to fish in multiple capacities. Yes, obviously, if he was by any body of water and there was at least one bobber on it that he owned, he was a happy man. But Harold was also, more importantly, in the biblical sense, a fisher of people. His second full-time position was in ministry and was well beyond a 40-hour-a-week job. Harold pastored the Clare Church of God from 1990 to 2002, and his ministry didn't start or stop there. When he wasn't at church, he was performing house and hospice calls, oftentimes taking one of us grandchildren along to witness and spend time with those he was praying with. He managed a prayer chain phone system with my grandmother and would often also give out Bibles that he just perpetually bought himself to random people that he thought would need it. He also just would simply strike up a conversation with complete strangers about God. It was one of the biggest things I admired about him. There was no greater feeling, though, for Butch or Grandpa than having a pole in hand, a captive audience in his aluminum boat. Whether it was a friend, a family member, or one of us grandchildren, that was his happy place. There are few greater memories that I have with my grandfather than filling a 5-gallon bucket with bluegills and hearing him talk about God and explain Bible stories and parables as we drifted back and forth with the wake of other boats on the water, just waiting for one of those bobbers to start dancing. We'd catch our fill, head back to shore, go home to clean our mess, and then Grandma would fry our day's trophies with potatoes. We'd all sit down and Grandpa would pray over the dinner we just caught. Christ's love fully encompassed his life, even down to the simplest blessings of praying over panfish. Harold also loved to serve. Not to repeat myself, but his ministry did not stop on Sunday. My Uncle Mike phrased it perfectly in love is a verb. Grandpa didn't speak the word of God simply. He lived it as well. Even outside of his official ministry capacities, he would use his skill set acquired outside of the ordination to help whenever possible. If someone needed something made, his engineering brain went to work, drafting schematics to make it from nothing more than simple wood and nails. My grandfather was an incredible craftsman. I'm sure all of his grandchildren have special memories working on various projects with him in his shop. One of my favorite running bits that he would often do in the shop together with me was to say, "You know, Jesus was a bit of a carpenter himself," while he smiled. His woodworking shop was filled to the brim with projects and materials and odds and ends that he was just saving for that special moment. If he was unsure on how to create or perform something, he'd meticulously study and research until he was confident that he could masterfully create whatever project was in front of him. He loved creating unique gifts of staffs and wooden spoons for unexpected recipients, each unique one picked with the utmost attention to detail for uniqueness and wood grain, coloration. It was just that perfect end result. Towards the end of his life, we found many of these projects that weren't completed, just sitting there, awaiting their creator's touch for completion. My grandfather's love outlasted his time on earth. That was our Harold. That was Butch. His love was greater than any human form could contain. Harold is survived by his wife Anna Owens of Beaverton, his 2 children Michelle and husband Martin Duraco of Clare, his son Michael Owens of Beaverton. Other survivors include his grandchildren, myself, Joshua, wife Tiffany Duraco of Bradley, Illinois, Ryan and wife Heather Owens of Gladwin, Adam and his wife Julie Owens of Royal Oak, Michigan, James Duraco of Clare, Emily Owens of Grand Rapids, and his 3 great-grandchildren, Tanner and Brody Owens, and Harper Duraco. He's also survived by his sister Lydia Middleton. Harold was preceded in death by his parents Harold and Marie Owens, as well as his brother Stephen. I thought it only appropriate to say my final goodbye for now in honoring my grandfather by reciting the verse that he would often recite to others as he would pray with them and anoint them. It was as Lord gave Moses for the priestly blessing. Numbers chapter 6 verses 24 through 26 were said likely thousands of times as he would pray and anoint the people he was spending time with over the years. May the Lord bless you, and may he keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift you up and give his countenance upon you and give you peace. I know the Lord did just that for our grandfather. We know Harold is at peace today.